Welcome back to Power in the Pause. I'm your host, Chelsea, and this is the space where we slow down, breathe for a second, and remember that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is pause. And today, sis, we're talking about something that so many women feel, but we're not always saying out loud. What happens when you look at your life and it doesn't look the way that you thought it would? When you're not where you plan to be and not who you thought you'd become, and you're left asking yourself, girl, how did I get here? Or even, who am I now? If that's where you are, stay with me. Most of us at some point create a version of ourselves in our head, right? Who we're going to be, what our life will look like, how things will unfold. And we just don't plan it. We attach to it. We build identity around it. Things like, I'm going to be successful in this way. I'm going to have this kind of relationship. I'm going to feel this way about my life. And without realizing it, that version of us becomes the standard we measure ourselves against. But life doesn't always follow the plan. Things shift, things fall apart, things don't happen when or how or with who we expected. And that's where we get stuck, not just in the disappointment, but in the identity conflict. Because now it's not just, well, this just didn't work out. It becomes, what does that say about me? And that's where the frustration, anxiety, and even depression can start to build. Not just from where you are, but it's from the gap between where you thought you'd be and where you actually are right now. This sits so hard because we don't just lose a plan. It feels like we're losing a version of ourselves. That version who had it figured out, the one who was on track, the one who thought things would turn out a certain way. And instead of adjusting, we just stay attached, possibly ruminating over how did we get here? We keep comparing our current reality to a version of life that doesn't exist anymore or maybe never has. And that keeps us stuck. So here's like the trap. You can spend so much time trying to become who you thought you'd be that you avoid getting to know who you actually are now. You stay in frustration, self judgment, the shooting all over yourselves. I should be further along. I should be here. Instead of asking what we really need to ask ourselves, what is my life asking of me now? Okay, lean into this, sis. Let me say this clear. You are not behind. You're just holding on to a version of your life that no longer fits. So, what do you do when you're sitting in that space? One, we're going to acknowledge the loss because that's what this is grief. You're grieving. You're grieving a timeline, an expectation, a version of yourself. And if we don't begin to acknowledge that, you stay stuck in fighting reality. Okay, two, you're going to separate your identity from the outcome. Not becoming who you plan to be doesn't mean you failed. It just means your life took a different direction. And that is not the same thing. Okay, three, get curious about who you are now. Instead of constantly asking yourself and forcing, how do I get back on track? Reflect and ask what actually feels true for me right now? What matters to me right now? What are my current values? What do I want right now? Because you're allowed to evolve. We want to continue evolving. Four, stop measuring your life against an outdated version of it. You cannot build a life you actually want if you're constantly comparing it to the one that does not exist or no longer exists. Before we close, sis, take this moment with me. Pause. Take a deep breath in through your nose and slowly exhale through your mouth. Again, inhale and exhale. Now, gently ask yourself, what version of my life am I still holding on to? And then, what would it look like to release it, even just a little bit? Release the pressure to figure it all out. Just notice and breathe. So, sis, if you're not who you plan to be, the next question becomes, who are you without that version? And that's what we're going to get into next. So, thank you for being here with me today. And if this episode had resonated with you, share it with another woman who might be feeling like she's behind, when really she's just in a different chapter than she expected. And if you want more conversations like this about healing, growth, and stepping into the woman that you're becoming, come join me over on Instagram at She Is Society Official. Until next time, remember, there is always power in the pause.